If someone's telling you that it's just a bad luck, it's never a bad luck. There's something you need to fix.
100%.
If you fix that one thing, it could be a matter of couple of days.
Exactly. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. It is very essential that you know what the problem is, only then you can fix it. And if you get a trainer's help, take it.
Why the teacher's input is really important, because the AI is doing a good job.
A software, you can achieve 60 to 70% level of efficiency. When you have an experts, you can then achieve 100% efficiency.
What is it that you see with students who do not have a very good command over the language?
The easiest way is to work hard. The reason is there is no substitute to hard work. That's the number one thing. Second thing.
Guys, welcome to EnglishWise PT podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have Kumar Gaurav with us, who understands the psychology of international students really, really well. He's an expert when it comes to PT counseling and consulting. Very experienced consultant, someone who can really see what the issue is, what you need to do to get through your PT score. Welcome to the podcast, Kumar. I am really happy to be interviewing you today. I'm looking forward to extracting all the knowledge, all the insights you have accumulated over the years. And I hope we'll have a great session today.
We sure will. Thank you, Shivi, for having me on the show.
Thank you. My very first question would be about the misconception. What do you think has been the biggest misconception among students when they come and they see you for the first time?
Well, vast majority of the students that come and see us, they're under an assumption that if they memorize the templates, that is enough. And more often than not, it is never enough, because templates can only help you to a certain extent, but you need a lot of other skills to go with it to be successful in PTE.
I agree. And I believe that coaching centers like us have way more value that can be added to the student apart from the templates, because templates are everywhere. You can get them from your friends, you can get them from a variety of websites, YouTube. So what do you think the real value comes in? Like coming to the institute, when a student is there, why do they need to come and take training? Like what's really the main value? What's really the main benefit?
Okay, so as you already mentioned, that there is a lot of information available online for free.
Yeah.
Like so much YouTube content, there's plenty of information, but it can be overwhelming at times, because a lot of times you get a lot of conflicting information from different experts. Someone may say, oh, this strategy works, but it may not necessarily work for everybody. The reason is one size fits all doesn't work in PT at all. Now, when you try and get information in bits and pieces from multiple places, and you try and make your own version of it, that's where the problem occurs. So when you seek an expert's help from someone like us or from any training institute for that matter, they will give you one streamlined process or method that you can follow, which has been tried and tested by thousands of test takers in the past and have been successful. So that's the number one reason, to streamline things for you. And the biggest advantage that you get when you seek training from an institute like us is we can get into the nitty-gritty and find out what the actual problem is with your PTE test-taking ability and coach you in the areas where you really need help.
I agree. So what I really understand is customization and assessment. These are the two main values that you get in an institute, because you want to be assessed first of all, and a human being, a trained PT trainer, can do a better assessment according to me than a software, and also the course can be customized to you in particular. That brings me to my next question. If the softwares are already there, the AI is there. Why do you think the teacher's input is really important? Because the AI is doing a good job. So I know there's a lot of students out there, they are not sure as to what value they're going to get if they sign up for classes, because most of them feel that they're good with the software and get some templates and we're good to go. So it'll be great if we can share with the audience as to what really the value is from a teacher's perspective.
Yes. Now, a lot of the softwares that are available in the market, they operate and the efficiency level is based on the number of sample answers that they have in them. So if your answer matches to one of the answers that's already there, then they will tend to rate you high. Whereas if your answer is not from one of the sample answers, you may not necessarily get the score that you're looking for on the software. So that's the limitation that you have with majority of the softwares that are available in the market. And that's where the trainers come in.
Yeah.
So let's say with a software, you can achieve 60 to 70% level of efficiency. But when you have an expert's help, like a trainer for that matter, you can then achieve 100% efficiency. So the remaining 30 to 40% that you're missing out because of the limitations of the software, that can be overcome with a trainer's help.
Because the AI, the software has its own limitations, whereas the trainer, the expert, has a wider outlook and can consider a lot of other things which the machine, so to speak, can ignore.
That's 100% correct.
You know, I'm also very curious to understand your own journey. This podcast will be watched by quite a few students, and you've come really far. You've done really well for yourself.
Thank you.
You're now a resident of Australia. You arrived in Australia, I believe, about 8 years ago.
Yes.
As an international student. How was your journey? In particular, if we can talk about your PT journey, and then obviously I would love to hear about other aspects of your life as an ex-international student.
Yep.
So if we can start with the PTE journey, how was it? Like, did you go for IELTS, PTE? How was that experience?
Yes. Now, luckily, I came from an English, I went to an English convent school. So I was very fortunate that I was exposed to English at a very early age. So I had a good command over the language even when I walked into this country. And I was a bit overconfident, actually, because I thought I could easily crack it without any preparation.
Yeah.
So I went and I took the test. I got 7 each. But I was very disappointed because I thought I could easily get 8 each.
79 plus. And is that what you were aiming for, 79 plus or 7? So, all right.
So my target was to get 79 each, but I ended up getting 73, 74, 75 without any preparation. That's when I got a taste of the reality that regardless of what your background is, if you don't understand the format well, if you're not prepared, you will not get your desired score. So that's when I went to a center, I don't want to name them, trained with them for a decent amount of time. But I wasn't given one-on-one attention, unfortunately, and because of which I ended up taking another 3 or 4 times the same test, but I used to miss out on one module every single time.
I see.
It's very unfortunate that they couldn't find out what the problem is. They kept telling me that you were unlucky, or you just had a bad day, you're doing everything right. But that wasn't the case. I was doing something wrong. It's just that they were not able to identify. That's when I saw one of these ads on Facebook, an EnglishWise ad actually. And I came into EnglishWise, sat down with one of the trainers. They were able to identify what the problem is. This was good. December 2019.
Still remember.
Still remember because...
You don't forget.
Yes, you don't
Very
forget. The trainers told me what the problem was. And I just changed that one bit. And you will not believe I had my scores in less than 2 weeks from that day.
Wow. So I learned two things here. One, if someone's telling you that it's just a bad luck, it's never a bad luck. There's something you need to fix.
Oh, 100%.
And the second learning is, if you fix that one thing, it could be a matter of couple of days. Then, it's not like you got to prepare for 4 months or 6 months. So you can score in PT your desired score in a very short period of time, but someone has to nail the problem.
Exactly. So there's a saying, problem known is problem cured. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. So it is very essential that you know what the problem is, only then you can fix it. And if you get a trainer's help, take it.
Yeah, fantastic. And how much, because what I understand and what my experience is, that you still got to practice a lot. Now, your command over the language was very strong. So few things might have been a little bit easy for you. You probably didn't have to work on the language itself. But you must, I think you've consulted over 2,000-3,000 students. You've met variety of students from variety of backgrounds. What is it that you see with students who do not have a very good command over the language? Like, what would be your advice to them? English is a bit of a problem. Obviously, they don't know much about PT. How should they prepare?
The easiest way is to work hard.
Yeah.
The reason is there is no substitute to hard work. That's the number one thing. Second thing, I've not seen anyone climb the ladder of success with the pockets in their hands.
There's no magic wand.
There's no magic wand that anybody possesses, regardless of whichever training institute you go to. You will have to work hard. You will have to put in the hours, practice. That's the biggest thing you can do to achieve your desired score. That's number one thing. And second thing is consistency. You can't be practicing for one day and disappearing for 7 days and then starting it again. Because if you're not consistent, there is a high possibility that you will slack off and you'll be short of your target.
And how important it is to work on the concepts when it comes to PT? Or is it good enough you just keep practicing on the softwares and just stick to the PT content? So someone who's struggling with the language itself, not bad, but they're not great in English, for example, then do they really have to practice some other resources as well? Because a lot of students watching this podcast might be thinking, okay, all I need to do is practice now, and I have a software. I'm going to go hard. I'm going to do all these mock tests. I'm going to practice every single day. But then, is that all, or they need to supplement their practice with something else?
It also depends on what their desired score is. For someone who's looking to get 50 but is consistently getting 60 plus in our mock test or the Pearson mock test, because they are the closest to the real world test scores. So yes, then they don't need to. But let's say if your target is 65 each and you end up getting 60 or 62, which means you're quite far off. You may think it's just 2 or 3 numbers. You just have to get lucky on that day. No, luck doesn't work here. It's all your skills that really matter, and that will decide whether you get the scores or not. So apart from taking the mock test, it's important that you seek an expert's help, not necessarily a trainer. It could be someone who's already nailed and got a very high score in PT. You can probably take advice from them. They can tell you the areas that you need to work on and probably work on those things to help you get you where you want to be.
When it comes to the class style, like online, face-to-face, there's a lot of ifs and buts. Some students only want to go for face-to-face. Some students prefer online. Does it really matter what mode of learning you go for? If you can share a little bit on that.
First of all, it's a very subjective case. The reason being, if you are in one of the regional areas where there is no center around you, then obviously you have to go online. But if you are living in one of the metros like Brisbane, Gold Coast, or Sydney or Parramatta for that matter, I would highly recommend you to train in one of the institutes for a very simple reason. When we take the actual test, there are around 10 to 15 people taking the same test at the same time. There's a lot of noise and commotion, and that can lead to you getting distracted very easily. If you're not trained in that environment, it is very difficult for you to acclimatize to that sound around you. So if given an opportunity, I would highly recommend you to train in one of the centers.
I completely agree. If you have the option, you must go for face-to-face.
100%.
Can you recommend one legit resource for preparing PTE? There's so much out there. If we're not being biased towards EnglishWise, what resource would you recommend? Like what website they should go and practice, which is like really genuine and they're really going to learn something?
So I've trained with EnglishWise and I've trained with other institutes as well before I came to EnglishWise. I would highly recommend using EnglishWise software. The reason is it's free for the first week. See if you like it, then you may want to consider going for the paid version. That's the number one resource. The second resource that I recommend is Ape Uni. The simple reason being they've got a big database of answers and it is very close to being accurate as well.
Yeah, correct. I agree. I would love to know about your migration journey as well. Once PT was done, going through the migration process, choosing the right agent can matter a lot. It can be make or break situation. A lot of students get on a wrong track just because of the migration agent or the consultants they deal with. What is your advice on that? Like if I'm an international student, I'm done with my studies now and I want to be on a right track when it comes to residency, what sort of decisions do I need to take and how should I consider?
When choosing a migration path, it is very important to decide what you actually want to do in life. Like for example, I remember speaking to one of the students who wanted to do nursing because it's in hot demand and it's very easy to get a permanent residency. But I asked the student whether you would like to work as a nurse once you complete your course and once you get your permanent residency. The answer was no. So my advice is choose a course that you think you will love to do even after getting your permanent residency, because you're not just satisfying the immediate requirement. You're also looking at something from a long-term perspective, which I think is the most important thing when you are moving to a country like Australia for migration purposes. There are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of skills that will offer you a permanent residency. So it's very, very important that you pick one of these courses that you think you will enjoy working in. And second thing is, it's very important to pick the right migration agent, because they can easily make it or break it for you.
But how do you select the right migration agent? That's really a tough job, I believe. Like, what should be the steps to make sure that you end up in the right place?
The easiest way is to ask your friends or colleagues who have got their desired outcome. they may be able to recommend you some. Other than that, do a bit of research about these migration agents before you pop into one of their offices to make sure that they are what they claim to be.
Correct. I agree. I've been thinking about this question for a while. How do you deal with students who are failing the test repeatedly? It's very common that by the time they come to you, they book an appointment with you, they sit in front of you, they've already failed the test 5 to 10 times. So now they are completely demotivated. They're probably running out of time. What is your advice? How do you deal with these kind of students?
Well, the first thing that I would tell them is it's not over till it's over. That's the first thing. Second thing is the biggest difference between someone who's been successful and someone who's not is the successful person has just tried one more time. And I can relate to these students because I've experienced this firsthand. I did take the test multiple times and I was not able to achieve my desired score in one of the modules, even after taking the test multiple times. The easiest thing for me at that time was to give up, but I didn't. I worked hard. That's the second thing. And the most important thing is seek the right help. And any situation you can very easily overcome if you've got the right people mentoring you, helping you and supporting you.
Correct. I agree. It's not over until it's over. And you have to let it go. And sometimes it can be really hard for students. Is there any particular strategy or technique that you would recommend so that students can just let it go and focus on the future? Because if you failed few times, then there is a fear that's sitting in your subconscious mind that it might happen again. You might get nervous in the exam. So how do you see that? Like, how can you just let it go and start fresh? Is there any particular technique?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what I did and what worked for me.
Yes, please.
First of all, when you're just about to start your test, there are butterflies in our tummy and that can make us really, really nervous. Doesn't help at all. Easiest thing to do is just breathe. I know it may sound like a very simple suggestion, but trust me, it works. Not just in PT, any situation, any stressful situation, if you start breathing, then you start thinking clearly. So take a deep breath and relax. And second thing is mindset. Again, there's a saying, your attitude decides your altitude.
Yes.
So if you think you can achieve it, you will achieve it. So with that being said, if you think, if I don't get my desired score, if I fail the test again, the world's going to come to an end. What you'll do is you'll put unnecessary pressure on yourself.
Yes.
Instead, do the opposite. Go there with a very relaxed mind and an attitude that if I don't get the score this time, I will come back and redo it. I'm just going to give my best.
Correct.
That's it. If you do that, what you're doing is you're doing yourself a big favor by taking off the stress of your mind. And if you have a relaxed mind, you can conquer any exam in the world.
100%. And I really like what you said. It's not the end of the world, you know. If you don't get it, you can always come back. Not that we want to keep coming back for the test, but that's a fact at the same time, you know, that sort of gives you that relief that it's not end of the world. Yes. Kumar, you must have learned a lot yourself about how students think, how they behave. What are two top-notch qualities you see in students who are quite successful? Students who always get the score in their first attempt after coaching. What are these like two top traits that you see in these kind of students?
The very obvious ones. The first one is hardworking. 99% of the students that are hardworking, they eventually achieve their desired score. Again, I like to say a lot of quotes, so one more here.
Yeah, please.
There's a saying that hard work will beat talent if talent's not working hard.
Yeah.
So if you work hard, no matter what the challenge is, you will always get to where you want to be. So hard work, there is no substitute for hard work. I know, yes, you have 2 jobs, you've got to pay your college fees, tuition fees, you're under a lot of stress, you can't spare time for PTE, but remember one thing, once you get your PTE done, once you have your permanent residency, your life's going to change. So is it worth it? 100% worth it. Yes, you have a couple of jobs that you have to go to, but take out time for PTE, because if you don't take out time for PTE when you have the time, you will have no time in a very short time. So that's the number one thing, hard work.
Great.
And the second most important thing is persistence. Do not give up. If you keep working hard and if you're persistent, you will definitely get your desired score.
Yeah. You know, I really want to know, like I want to break it down, the hard work part, how much? How many hours do I need to put in?
Well, again, that's a very subjective question.
Yeah, like I'm an extremely busy guy. Let me try to make it more neutral, like make it more objective. I need to raise one band. So let's say I have to go from 65 to 79, or I'm sitting at 50 and I have to go to 65. So you're looking at about 14 to 15 points plus than where I am. This is the aim. This is the gap. Now what kind of hours and hard work I'm looking at?
Again, Shivi, my answer remains the same.
Okay.
It's very subjective.
Right.
The reason is, if you like, I'll give you an example. Let's say if you ask me, Kumar, how long does it take for someone to save $10,000? It's not the same for everybody. It's completely different. Someone who's working on minimum wages may take months.
Yeah.
Someone who's in real estate may make it in a day. So it's very, very subjective. But if I had to put in a number, I would say whatever time you can put in the maximum number of hours you can. Because if you work hard now, you can have a really good time later.
I agree.
And to give you the real hours, it doesn't have to be at a stretch. You could do a couple of hours in the morning or 1 or 2 hours just before you go to bed. So it doesn't have to be at a stretch.
I'll go back to the migration thing again. How did you choose your own agent? Like, how did you figure out that the course you were in was the right course for your career, for your permanent residency, and choosing the right education consultant or the migration agent? Like, what was your style, like the factors that you considered to choose the right people around you?
Well, I was recommended by a friend who worked with them in the past.
I see.
Migration during those years were like really, really tough. But I stuck to it and I worked towards whatever I could, like getting my PTE scores. I did my NAATI, I did my professional year. I had a bit of my work experience as well. So I went to them with all these points and they were able to help me get my desired outcome. So
Interesting.
Even a migration agent can't help you if you have not done your bit.
Yeah.
If you don't have your scores, there's not much that they can help you with.
I would also love to know about your work history. What was your first job in Australia? How did you land into that job? And then how did you progress from there to where you are now? If you can talk a little bit about it, how that journey looked like.
So when I came in, again, because I had decent communication skills, I was fortunate to work for a wealth management firm in sales. So
Was that your first job?
Yeah, that was my first job.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was very fortunate. So that was a sales job where I used to speak to people from around the country. It was very tough at the beginning because as soon as they hear someone from overseas with a foreign accent, they used to hang up on me. So it's very challenging. So it took me a while to get used to or to get around the accent and put on a fake accent to talk to
I see.
people from different parts of the country.
Yeah.
But that made me very, very confident and resilient. And I did learn a lot of skills there, especially helped me improve my communication skills big time and negotiation skills. I was able to improve, thanks to the first job that I had in Australia.
Fantastic. Were you recommended to this job or you applied for your first job?
Now I applied for this job
I see.
on Seek.
On Seek.
Yes, that's right. So,
and how was the interview like? Was it?
yeah, it was quite challenging. Like they asked me a lot of questions, but more than the interview, there's one thing that I like to share.
Please.
Well, the job that I got hired for, like 20 people were hired with me at the same time. That's because that place had a very high turnover rate. This was good 7.5 years ago. So I was the only Asian or Indian amongst those 20 people. Everybody else was either a Brit or a Canadian or an American. Most of them were backpackers, and some were Australians as well. So after the end of the first day, of those 20, 5 had left because they couldn't do that job.
I see.
Over the next 5 or 6 days, 18 people were either kicked out or they left themselves because they thought that place is not right for them, because it was cold calling people and people are not very nice with cold callers. Even back then.
True.
But even after the 4th or 5th day, I didn't produce any results, but they held on to me. I got my first sale on the 5th or the 6th day, whereas the target was to get two sales in a day. So I got my first sale on the 5th day. After a couple of months, I asked the manager, like, why did you hold on to me when I wasn't the best? He just said one thing: you were the hardest working person in that room. That's why we held on to you.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes. And after that, I did stick around in that company for more than 2 years, 2.5 years, and I won so many awards, multiple quarters in a row. So,
congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Really proud of you. Yeah, you've come really far, Kumar, and I loved your story of hard work and resilience. And I think you've showed that trait throughout your journey, not just at your first job, but even when you were preparing for your PTE. Was there any other big challenge that you faced during your phase of an international student? And if you can share your learnings with students out there, if you can think of anything, it could be work related, it could be something that happened outside work, something that can really give a proper insight into what can happen and how students can deal with the situation.
Yep. So before I came into this country like 8.5 years ago, I was already a manager, like in my early 20s, in one of the top IT firms in the country, in India. So I'd already reached a certain stage with my career. So when I came into this country, I had to start from the scratch.
Yes.
And it was very demoralizing at the start to start from the scratch. But I kept telling myself, this is what you've chosen for yourself. So you got to deal with it. Took me a while to get used to it because this was the first time I was moving away from my family. I was very fortunate that I had people to assist me throughout. I had my mom and my dad, and I had a bit of domestic help as well to help us do the chores.
Yeah.
But when you have to do things all by yourself, then it becomes a massive challenge. That's one of the things. I was missing my family. That was the biggest thing. Second is you're missing your home cooked food. You can't keep eating outside.
Yes.
That was number 2. Number 3, doing your own chores.
Yes.
Number 3, then you had to study for a master's degree.
Yes.
That's number 4. Plus you had to do a couple of jobs as well, not just one. but
Yes.
2 jobs to pay your fees, to keep the things going. So it was very overwhelming to begin with, but challenges don't get easier, you just get tougher. So
Correct.
as time passed by, kept doing it over and over again every single day, and that made me resilient, and that led me to become what I am today.
Hard work, consistency, and that made you quite resilient
That's right.
and obviously successful.
Thank you.
8.5 years, well done. You don't get to hear this much of success in 8.5 years time, especially these days in Australia. Is there any particular strategy or kind of vision you built up early in your life here in Australia? Like, was there any strategy in place that I want to get these things done by this time? Or were you more like, let's go with the flow and let's just keep doing what I can do?
Well, I'm someone who doesn't think too far ahead in life, and I think that has helped me all this while.
That's good.
Always believe in achieving short-term goals, because I know that if I achieve my short-term goals, my long-term goals will be automatically taken care of.
Correct. I think it's a pretty good insight. Like, if you can just focus on what's next, what's on your plate, if you can figure that out, you can fix that, you do what's needed, bigger things will be looked after on its own.
That's correct.
Correct. Yes. It was lovely. I really enjoyed the podcast. And is there anything that you would like to share with students who are learning PTE, who are just about to finish their studies? A lot of uncertainty might be there in the head right now. Any one last advice that you would like to share with them?
Yep. So I know a lot of students have got longer 485 visas. They may have 2 years, 3 years, and they may think that it is a lot of time. But just trust me for one thing, guys, there isn't enough time. The time bomb's already ticking. The sooner you get your permanent residency sorted, the better it is.
I agree.
Everything else will automatically fall in place once you have that thing figured. But let's say if you have a very good job, you're working in the industry and you love what you're doing and you are getting paid like really well, but if you don't have a permanent residency, you will have to eventually go back packing when your 485 runs out. And because of the change in the rules, you can't apply for a student visa again. So you only get one shot. Make the most of it, is what I would tell.
100%. And you might find something very exciting right now, something that can lure you, like a high-paid part-time job or something. But please remember, permanent residency is the key to everything else.
That's right.
So, yeah, very rightly said. Thank you so much, Kumar. It was lovely chatting with you. I really feel people who'll watch this podcast, they will at least have one key takeaway which can change their life. And this is the idea and the purpose of this podcast. Thanks for also sharing some really good insights for PT as well. So my suggestion to you guys would be that you aim to implement at least 2 things from this podcast and make it part of your life. And if you see a positive change, please let us know in the comments. And if you want to connect with Kumar, let us know. We'll do that for you. Kumar is based in Brisbane here in Australia. If you want to consult him for anything which is connected to international students, let us know. And it was lovely to meet you, mate. Thank you.
Likewise, Shivi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.